Terminator Dark Fate is in theaters now, and it brings back a lot of our favorite players from the original series. We got Arnold Schwarzenegger back, we got James Cameron, who has some input in the story, and we also have a secret ingredients in Linda Hamilton coming back as Sarah Connor, one of my favorite characters ever. But we also have some new additions, a new director and Tim Miller, and some new leads to this movie. Does it stick the landing, or is it just another Terminator sequel that leaves us all disappointed? We're going to talk about that and much more. Terminator Dark Fate, directed by Tim Miller, stars Linda Hamilton, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Mackenzie Davis, Natalia Reyes, Gabriel Luna, and Diego Boneta. Sarah Connor, and hybrid cyborg human, must protect a young girl from a newly modified liquid Terminator from the future. Hey everybody, Elliot here with a new movie review, and this time it's a spoiler-free review for Terminator Dark Fate, which I got to see early, October 29th, when the film does come out this Friday, so I'm here to share my thoughts with you all. Now, consider subscribing to our channel if you haven't already, and make sure you're hitting that notification bell so you can stay up to date with the latest content, and I would love to know what you all thought of this movie. Leave your comments below in the comment section. So with that being said, let's jump into this review. So, starting off, before I get into my positives and negatives and all that fun stuff, let's talk a little bit about my fandom as a Terminator fan. The Terminator is one of my favorite action sci-fi horror films, and I watch it like once a year, twice a year sometimes. I really enjoy that film. But T2 is easily one of my favorite films of all time. Like literally in my top 10, I would say top 15. It's one of my favorite sci-fi films, mixed in with the the action, some of the best action CGI I've ever seen, and it ages so well. And I actually saw 1, 2 going into Dark Fate tonight. I saw it all in order, so it was a really interesting experience. And as far as the other films, 3, 4, and 5, they have their moments, but I'm not the biggest fan of those. I don't revisit those too often. So going to some of the positives, we have some new ingredients, and that's Tim Miller in the directing chair this time around. Small, limited filmography. We all know him from Deadpool, which I thought he knocked out of the park, and really would have loved to see him do Deadpool 2, but I thought David Leitch did a good job for what he did. But I'm a fan of Tim Miller. I love Deadpool 1. I love something else that he did earlier this year, which I did a review for on Netflix, Love, Death, and Robot. Do yourself a favor, watch that show if you haven't, and watch my review after. But I'm a really big fan of his, and I like his directing in this movie, because something that Tim Miller does a phenomenal job of doing is directing action. And the action set pieces in this film, which we'll talk a little bit later, were absolutely phenomenal. I love his sensibilities and how he handles the camera, how he just decides to shoot certain scenes, his color palette, his cinematography. I'm a big fan of how he shoots films, and I was very pleased with Tim Miller's direction in this movie. Kind of transition to some other positives in the performances. Let's start off with the OGs, the originals. We got Arnold Schwarzenegger back in a good role, smaller role than I expected, but still good. I thought that they gave him something new for the T-800, for the role that Arnold was given. He has some new emotional beats. He has a purpose in this film, per se, and I really enjoyed his performance. He has some comedy moments, and then mixed in with obviously some badass moments and some catchy lines that we're used to with Arnold in this franchise that really started his whole career. So I was very pleased with his role and how they used Arnold Schwarzenegger in the movie. But also, Linda Hamilton is back as Sarah Connor, one of my favorite iconic characters ever in cinema. Her arc, again, I saw 1, 2, and then going into Dark Fate, it was so cool to see those back to back to back, because seeing her in 1 as a nice, loving character who has to fight for herself at the very end of the movie, but then transitioning into 2, she's a complete badass, and then she continues that in Dark Fate. It's incredible that, Linda Hamilton hasn't played this character since 91, which is 28 years ago, and it feels like she just hasn't missed a beat. She's right back in the role, she's right back in Sarah Connor mode, and she has some new elements to her backstory, which makes it a very interesting watch for her character. And I just have to say, I just really loved her performance. It reminds me of more recently of a Harrison Ford stepping right into Han Solo and making it feel like it was just the other day that he filmed him, the original trilogy. And also more recently last year, Jamie Lee Curtis coming back as Laurie. I thought those were some good examples of showing what kind of performance that we get from Linda Hamilton, which again, it feels like she never left, and she's right back in that role. And it was really cool. It's something interesting that Hollywood's doing, that they are picking up these movies. They're retconning these other films, and they're injecting these films so they don't have to pick up those mythologies. And again, I thought Linda Hamilton did a good job of ignoring the past and just focusing on what she was given on the screen. She did a really good job in the role. So we also got some newbies. I'll kind of start off with the ones that got a little bit of roles, and then obviously my MVP. So we got Gabriel Luna, who's the Rev 9, the badass Terminator in this movie, and I thought he did a great job of not only doing what we got from the first Terminator, which was fear. You're scared with the new Terminator. He's so he has so many different abilities, and it's just terrifying. And the score they give him is really cool and interesting. And then, by the way, the score in this film is really solid by Junkie X9. I would have loved to have seen some more of the original score from the original Terminators, but I thought he did a good job of mixing it in at appropriate moments. But Gabriel Luna, badass character. Would have liked to seen him more in the movie, because there are moments that he's really literally not in the movie for like 20 or 30 minutes, but when he's on screen, he's phenomenal. Our lead in this movie, who has the most of, the main storyline, Natalia Reyes, I thought she did a great job in the role that she was given. She's essentially kind of the Sarah Connor in this movie, but she has a pretty quick arc that I thought is, as far as criticism there, I thought that her arc was, the way they kind of handled it was a little mishandled in my opinion, but I thought that the young lady did a good job in the role. She was sympathetic, she was a badass when she needed to be, and I just liked her performance in this entirety, and I thought she had good chemistry with my MVP of this movie, next to Linda Hamilton, Mackenzie Davis. Do yourself a favor, go watch her TV shows. She's been on Black Mirror, Halt and Catch Fire. She's been in movies in small roles like Blade Runner 2049, The Martian, and some other films. But this is really the first time that Hollywood gets to see her be a badass, and that she is a complete badass in this film as this kind of hybrid cyborg human character who has a lot of strengths, but a lot of weaknesses in the wrong times at time in this film, what I thought which adds some dynamic and some complexity to her character. But again, she was my MVP in the movie. I thought she stole the movie personally. I love her as an actress. I love to get her in more of these roles of her being a badass, but also just more roles in general. Again, you see her in Tully, you see in all these different movies. She is a great actress, but I thought she stole this movie, and all the scenes she was in, she was absolutely great. Again, the action was handled well. Literally the first 45 minutes of this movie, I'm thinking to myself, this is one of my favorite action movies of 2019, and especially that first opening set piece, which is phenomenal. I haven't seen this type of action since John Wick 3, and it's up there for me as far as like the first 10 to 15 minutes is non-stop action, and I thought it was handled pretty well, and most of the action in its entirety was handled pretty well. So going to my negatives / criticisms, I thought the biggest thing was there were 5 writers in this movie, and I felt that at times, and particularly the repetitiveness of the same story in a different movie with a different title. I won't get into the specifics. Again, inherently, Terminator 1 and 2 are very similar in tone and storyline, but they have their differences. But I feel like this film looked at 1 and 2, took a lot of the nods, but then injected a lot of the same beats that we've seen in those previous films, which I was hoping to see something new, especially with 5 writers of the film. I thought the comedy was surprising because I love Deadpool, and of course we have Ryan Reynolds doing a lot of those jokes and the writers, but the jokes really didn't land for me for a lot of the majority of the movie, to be honest with you. A lot of them feel kind of out of place, and there was 1 or 2 that I laughed at, but a lot of it kind of fell flat. And another big surprise for me, especially considering Tim Miller's background, some of the CGI was a little messy. I actually felt like some of the T2 effects looked better in its time in 91 than some of the effects that looked in this film in 2019, which was very surprising. And then last thing, there was a little bit of pacing issues, like when the movie slowed down from the high-octane action, they did a lot of exposition and a lot of explaining that I just didn't feel organic to the script at times. So overall thoughts, I think it's worth checking out. I saw it in IMAX, so if you get the opportunity to see it in IMAX, definitely do so. I thought that the film did a good job of really not... if you're new to the franchise, I think you can go into this and enjoy this film. You don't necessarily have to see 1 and 2, but if you've seen them like me and you're a fan like me, I think you'll have a little bit more extra enjoyment. And I will say, as a fan of the franchise, I love the action in the film, and I thought as an action film it was really solid, really great at times. But then as a Terminator fan, some of the decisions, without going to the spoiler territory, I would have liked them to tweak some of the major twists and turns that they did. A lot of them didn't work for me, and a lot of them, 1 in particular, really didn't work for me, and I really won't go into details there. But, overall, I think it's worth checking out. Go see it in the theater when you get a chance. Again, I think that if they wanted to, they can continue this franchise, but if this is a definitive end, which if it does, numbers at the box office, we'll probably get more. But if this is the last one, I would be satisfied too, minus, a couple of those things that I mentioned as far as my criticism. So I'm going to give this film a 3.5 out of 5. It's a really solid action film that I love the action, and the characters, Linda Hamilton and Mackenzie Davis, were great. Arnold was good. The new additions were really solid. But again, repetitive beats with some writer issues, some pacing issues that I really wished would have been ironed out a little bit better. But 3.5 out of 5, go check it out. So like this video, share this video, comment below what you thought of this movie, as well as if you're going to go check it out this weekend. Subscribe to our channel if you haven't already, and also keep an eye out for Dr. Sleep, which I'm seeing pretty soon. Tonight, actually, when this review drop, I'm going to be seeing Dr. Sleep, so keep an eye out for that review. We got some Apple Plus content coming pretty soon. We got some more episodes of Castle Rock. We got some movies like The King on Netflix, some other things. So definitely keep an eye out for some amazing content coming to this channel. Thank you all for watching this review, and we'll see you in the next video.